Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. You're listening to My Strategy. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, extremely happy to be here with you today. In fact, I'm grateful that you could be with us here today. And always glad that you're able to join us on this show. The show is a live show. Our episodes are live on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern. Today we're talking about I'm grateful. In this episode, I'm going to talk about gratitude and being thankful. We're going to talk about underestimating the power of saying thanks, dealing with those who don't express their gratitude. And it's not about constant affirmation, but life can be better when we do have a sense of gratitude. Well, happy to be here with you today. Saturday is a great day of the week to reflect. It's the day that I choose to reflect on my strategy, but know that any time is a good time for you to assess your strategy. The show is growing. We're available on iHeart, iTunes, Player FM, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and many more of the digital platforms, so you can go there to listen to past episodes. You can find me on most social platforms. My Twitter handle is @HawkinsJohn, and my website is johnmhawkins.com. And just like anything in life, we need to have a strategy and a plan to help us reach our goals, because the best laid plans don't always work. This week, I'm looking for stories on gratitude or being thankful. Do you have any good examples, a tip, or a trick? If you do, send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. And you can be entered into our weekly giveaway, where you can be entered to win a copy of my latest book, Coach to Greatness, and also a Visa gift card. All right, so today we're talking about gratitude. We're going to talk about the benefits of gratitude. What is it? It is an emotional expression. We're going to talk about the benefits of saying thanks. We're going to talk a little bit about why it is difficult for some to be grateful. We're going to talk about you don't have to constantly say thank you. In fact, many times people don't say thank you for things others do for them. We're going to talk about some experiments that prove the point. Lots of studies out there on thankfulness and gratitude. We're going to talk about what to do with those who never say thank you. There's some strategies out there. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do to make our life better by expressing gratitude and saying thanks, by going through some tips to help you be more grateful. All right, so today we're talking about the benefits of gratitude. First and foremost, what does gratitude mean? I've got an article here in Psychology Today. It says, what is gratitude? Gratitude is an emotion expressing appreciation for what one has. It is a recognition of value, independent of monetary worth, spontaneously generated from within. It's an affirmation of goodness. And research shows that people differ in the degree to which they are inclined to experiment and express gratitude. As a result, gratitude is said to exist both as a temporary feeling and as a disposable trait. In both cases, gratitude involves a process of recognizing, first, that one has obtained a positive outcome, and second, that there is an external source for that good outcome. A social emotion, gratitude strengthens relationships. Its roots run deep in evolutionary history, emanating from the survival value of helping others and being helped in return. Studies show that there are specific areas of the brain that are involved in experiencing and expressing gratitude. Gratitude is a spontaneous feeling, but increasingly research has demonstrated its value as a practice, that is, making conscious effort to count one's blessings. Studies show that people who can deliberately cultivate gratitude, and there are important social and personal benefits to doing so. A lot of personal benefits from us doing it. This show's all about personal development. So we're thinking about this in the context of our personal development, but also within our professional lives and also our personal lives. Got another article here called In Praise of Gratitude. It's from the Harvard Health Publishing, a medical journal. It says the word gratitude is derived from the Latin word gratia, which means grace, gracious, or grateful. All depending on the context, of course. And in some ways, gratitude encompasses all those meanings. Gratitude is a thankful appreciation for what an individual receives, whether tangible or intangible. With gratitude, people acknowledge the goodness in their lives. In the process, people usually recognize that the source of that goodness lies, at least partially, outside of them. As a result, Gratitude also helps people connect to something larger than themselves as individuals, whether to people, nature, or some sort of higher power. It says in positive psychology research, gratitude is strongly and consistently associated with greater happiness. Gratitude helps people feel more positive emotions, relish good experiences, improve their health, deal with adversity, and build strong relationships. Sounds like a good trait to have if you are in the business world or dealing with people, as we all do on a daily basis. People feel and express gratitude in multiple ways, though. They can apply it to the past, where they retrieve it from their memory banks. They can take it from the present, not taking good fortune for granted as it comes, or future, maintaining a hopeful and optimistic attitude. So 3 different ways we can realize gratitude. Regardless of the inherent or current level of someone's gratitude, it is a quality that individuals can successfully cultivate further. That's always the good news on this show. We are looking for ways to grow personally, and having a positive statement like that saying that we have the ability to cultivate it gives me hope, because I can tell you that I'm not always the most grateful person. It's not intentional, but we're going to find out why that is a little bit later in the show. Research on gratitude says 2 psychologists, Dr. Robert A. Emmons of the University of California at Davis and Dr. Michael E. McCullough of the University of Miami, have done much research on gratitude. In one study, they asked all participants to write a few sentences, each focusing on particular topics. The group wrote about things that they were grateful for that had occurred during the week. A second group wrote about the daily irritations and things that had displeased them. The third wrote about things that had affected them with no emphasis on them being positive or negative. After 10 weeks, those who wrote about gratitude were more optimistic and felt better about their lives. Surprisingly, they also exercised more and had fewer visits to the physicians than those who focus on sources of aggravation. There's other research here that talks about Dr. Martin E. Seligman, a psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, tested the impact of various positive psychological interventions on 411 people, each compared with a control assignment of writing about early memories. When their week's assignment was to write and personally deliver a letter of gratitude to someone who had never been properly thanked for his or her kindness, participants immediately exhibited a huge increase in happiness scores. The impact was greater than from any other intervention, with benefits lasting as long as a month. Of course, studies such as this cannot prove cause and effect, but most of the studies published on this topic support an association between gratitude and well-being. Also says here that managers who remember to say thank you to busy people who work for them may find those employees feel motivated and work harder. There's researchers who, at the Wharton School in the University of Pennsylvania, randomly divided university fundraisers into 2 groups. One group made phone calls to solicit donations in the same way they'd always done. The second, assigned to work a different way, received a pep talk from the director of annual giving, who told the fundraiser she was grateful for their efforts. During the following week, the university employees who'd heard that message of gratitude made 50% more fundraising calls than those who did not. It says here there are some notable exceptions to the general positive results in research on gratitude. One study found that middle-aged divorced women who kept gratitude journals were no more satisfied with their lives than those who did not. Another study found that children and adolescents who wrote and delivered a thank you note to someone who made a difference in their lives may have made the other person happier, but not necessarily themselves. I say this has to do with emotional maturity. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to go through some of the benefits of saying thank you, but sometimes it's hard. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. The show's My Strategy. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Right before the break, we were talking about the benefits of gratitude or thankfulness. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of saying thanks, yet some have a hard time saying thank you. There's some of these benefits. It says, well, I've got an article here by Diane Gottsman. She's a contributor. And she wrote this article on why is thank you difficult for some people to say. Now, I know personally I have a difficult time saying thank you in certain occasions, and I'm hoping that after going through this, it's going to give me some insight into why that is. Diane says, for most people, expressing appreciation is a natural response to receiving a gift or accepting a kind gesture or compliment. In the business arena, acknowledging someone's effort with a spoken "Thanks for picking up the drawings on the way to work" is not only expected, but it's an integral part of building goodwill. She says, unfortunately, there are those who have difficulty displaying their gratitude for one reason or another. They remain mute, leaving the contributor feeling perplexed and underappreciated. How many times has this happened to you where you are speaking with somebody or you do something kind? You expect a thank you, but never get the thank you. Why don't they thank you? Well, it turns out there's a number of reasons. According to Diane says that one reason could be is because they're just feeling uncomfortable. What could be perceived as a lack of interpersonal skills is sometimes a facade for social anxiety. They have difficulty communicating their emotions and subsequently hesitate to respond. They're unsure of what to say, so they say nothing at all. Or they have misinterpreted the gift to be a bribe or are contemplating what step to take next. You are oblivious to their thought process and are left to wonder what's going on. What's going on in their head? You never know how people interpret various actions and acts. And I think this is a pretty good summary here of why people might not say thank you. They're just feeling uncomfortable. They don't know what to say. They have some sort of anxiety, or they might think that you are trying to do something nice for them, and there's going to be a quid pro quo. The next one, she says, they are distracted. You were certain your colleague would love the Belgian chocolates you placed on their desk, but surprisingly, you haven't heard the ooh and ah all day. What you may not realize is that your coworker's been working late nights for several days on an audit and is preoccupied with the deadline. Between shortages of sleep and temporary anxiety, the box of chocolates was pushed under the desk, and now it has slipped your friend's mind. Their oversight is unintentional, and that person will feel terrible when they remember and they forgot to mention it. How many times do we get distracted? How many things are we focusing on a daily basis, and somebody does something nice for us, yet there's 100 other activities that happen in a day, perhaps, and you just get distracted. Well, it's possible that somebody did get distracted. From that perspective, don't take it personally. But I do think it is important for us to, at a later point when we do find those Belgian chocolates underneath the desk, that you do go to your coworker and say thank you. And for me, I prefer dark chocolate, so please feel free to send in all the dark chocolates to me, and I will definitely say thank you. Then a third one, she says, is they don't realize your effort. You transported back a fragile souvenir on the airplane in your carry-on bag so that it wouldn't break. Your coworker thinks it is something you ordered in bulk to give out as party favors. While admittingly it's impolite to ignore your Herculean efforts, they clearly aren't placing the same significance on the token as you. Yes, even the smallest labor requires acknowledgement, and this one was no small feat. They don't realize your effort. Some things might seem very small. It's the thought that counts. But it might have been a big effort, especially if you're traveling on a trip and bringing back things for those you care about, whether it's a coworker, a loved one, or other. Sometimes you even have to pack a separate bag just to carry all those trinkets back, or perhaps pack them up and ship them. It does take effort, so you have to think about what that person has gone through to be able to do what they've done for you. Another thing she says it could be why people don't say thank you is because there's an unresolved conflict. And this is Diane Gottsman. She wrote an article for the Huffington Post. She says there's unrealized conflict when someone feels hostility towards another person. It's difficult to communicate in a positive manner. They believe that acknowledging the other party for any positive act would absolve them from their perceived offense. In their eyes, this person has been disqualified from the general niceties offered to us. If there is an issue, it's better to get it open rather than harbor a grudge. Lacking the capacity to thank someone for their thoughtfulness will breed additional discord. This is an interesting one. I do think it is important for us to really think about our relationships and who we are interacting with. Not everybody is going to treat you nice all the time, and you're not going to treat everybody nice all the time. But when it comes time to personal development and it comes time to working in workplace environments, also personal relationships, it's important for us to, for lack of a better word, be the bigger person and try and do what we can to see their perspective. In fact, I did a whole podcast on perspective because sometimes there could be somebody who is emotionally abusive, physically abusive, they're a bully at work, and when they do something and we hold that grudge against them, it only inhibits our ability to have a productive work relationship with them. So we always want to be thinking about how we can go about resolving those conflicts, but having an unresolved conflict is a great reason why we might not receive it. Regardless of the reason, there is never a valid excuse to avoid a thank you. Intentionally doing so is dismissive and disrespectful. Keeping quiet sends the message of indifference, which can strain both social and workplace relationships. Use your best judgment when selecting your method of delivery, but don't avoid those two magic words. Thank you. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about you don't have to constantly say thank you. We're going to talk a little bit about what people do say. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and the show is My Strategy. Well, happy to be with you here today. I'm glad you could join us. Our episodes are live and on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Today we're talking about gratitude and being grateful. Right before the break, we're talking about the benefits of saying thanks, yet some have a hard time saying thank you. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit about you don't have to always say thank you. Got an article here by Amy Morin. And it says, we don't have to say thank you constantly, according to a new study. Apparently, the low rate of verbalized thanks is a sign of the reciprocation is already expected. It is a received norm. In an article published in the New York Times this week, Jennifer Schuster highlighted new research that focused on how much people from a handful of different cultures say thank you. The study was led by Simone Floyd. They found that when we're going about our daily informally, we express gratitude, including through phrases like good job pretty infrequently. The thank yous come at the rate of only in about 1 in 20 opportunities. But she says don't lose heart. The researchers have been incredibly positive in interpretations of the findings. They assert that our low rate of verbal thanks is a good thing. It demonstrates that as social creatures, we already expect reciprocity. We demand our need for or ask for help in what we say and do, and others step up to the plate. Surrounded by this constant, totally normal stream of back and forth, we don't feel the need to say thank you every single time, and we can potentially focus more on whatever it is that we have to do. But is the office different? Schuster notes that Floyd's thank you study didn't look at the institutional or business settings. She claims it might be more common for us to express thanks in these more formal environments. And she's inclined to agree, as she thinks of how many emails she gets on a daily basis saying thank you for simple completion of tasks. The default start and end to presentations, face-to-face interviews, or meetings at the exchange of information. You could argue in saying that the more in business we are doing for each other is in that we're acknowledging individual contribution. Studies consistently show that workers want to be seen, included, and valued more than anything, including fancy or impressive perks. Maybe this fact and the increased importance of verbalized gratitude in business are a reality because the very nature of corporate hierarchy and the role division puts such massive emphasis on differences and inequality rather than equality. If we can't interact in the office in ways that really foster truly natural reciprocity, the more informal settings permit, then getting a professional thank you becomes the one confirmation we have left that we matter and that we're not being taken advantage of. I think that's a good point here. We have thank yous that happen from the heart, but we also have thank yous that happen on a regular basis. It's just at the bottom of our signature, and we're not really truly being thankful. She says it's a double-edged sword. The entire reason saying thank you has value or sincerity at all is because we don't say those words at the drop of a hat. We need affirmation, but could we be in danger of thank you becoming little more than a piece of corporate jargon? We've overused it. Are we merely 2 steps away from fostering annoyance rather than happiness? The same way toddlers who can't stop crying, why, mommy, daddy, grates on the nerves of their parents. She says, raise your hand if you've ever heard of an interviewee start the presentation with 20 seconds of flattery-filled appreciation and wish they'd just skip the bowl and get to their point. I mean, and how common does this happen? You know, you're in a meeting, you've got work to do, and the first thing they start every meeting off with is their thankfulness and everything that everybody's done, and we appreciate you being on this call late. In some cases, it's not appropriate, and I think people realize that. They realize that it's done out of a habit or out of a social norm rather than having something that they really are. How much of our politeness at work is simply a ruse to fit in? How much of it is actually representative of our toxic ability to openly create authentic cultures that truly break down silos? How many bosses take the easy route with empty words rather than actually listening to their workers, rolling up their sleeves, swallowing their pride to assist and give back? How much better off, if any, would it be if we talk less and showed more? Action. The study really does seem to prove that it speaks louder than words. So lots of things here to digest. I think from my perspective, it shows me that, we don't always have to say thank you. And if you are constantly saying thank you, it might lose its meaning. Kind of like the little boy who cried wolf. Another article here talking about people underestimating the power of saying thank you. This is an article that's in Psychology Science. It says, when thanking someone, individuals may not appreciate the positive feelings that their expression of gratitude engenders. And that may explain why some people don't show their appreciation more often. This is according to a recent study published in Psychological Science. People don't seem to walk around in their day-to-day lives giving thanks to people all that often, says Amit Kumar, who conducted this study as a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Chicago. Kumar and his co-author, APS fellow Nicholas Epley, a professor of behavioral science at the University of Chicago, explains that decisions are guided by the expected value of an action. So underestimating the positive effect of gratitude might lead to expression in day-to-day life. Says here that this research adds to our understanding of people's day-to-day lives and speaks to simpler ways in which they can be improved. Kumar says, who is now an assistant professor at the University of Texas. Now, the author suggests some reasons that individuals might undervalue gratitude. First, expressors might assume that a recipient already knows they're appreciated, so they underestimate the recipient's surprise at being genuinely thanked. Second, actors tend to evaluate themselves in terms of competence, so they may worry about how they express their gratitude. Yet observers tend to evaluate people based on their warmth and intent. So expressors could underestimate how happy and overestimated or how awkward this made those recipients feel. It says previous research demonstrates that when put in a pro-social situation, such as talking to a stranger on the train, individuals increasingly find positive effects, even when they predicted a negative experience. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about what to do with those who never say thank you. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. This week, we're talking about being grateful, being thankful. If you're just joining us, this is My Strategy. We're on Saturdays, live, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. This show, I'm talking about being grateful, talking about gratitude and being thankful. underestimating the power of saying thanks, dealing with those who don't express gratitude. But it's not about constant affirmation. And life can be better when we have a sense of gratitude. Right before the break, we were talking about the power, those who actually continually say thank you and misuse it. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit about what to do with those who don't ever say thank you. I've got an article here by Susan Cross Whitman, PhD. She says, you've gone out of your way to help somebody you don't know that well, but you've always liked, and you're expecting gratitude for your kindness. But instead of getting the gratitude, you get a complaint. This person you helped feels that you didn't actually do quite enough and accuses you of only looking out for your own best interest. Perhaps instead this person becomes angry, stating that the help wasn't needed and that you're being patronizing. The act of kindness on your part could have involved the simple gesture of lending a hand while this person tried to juggle an armful of shopping bags, or providing more substantial help, such as giving somebody a loan. In either case, it's clear that your gesture didn't produce the anticipated outcome you were expecting of thanks. How often does this happen? I think this happens quite a bit. I know lots of people who you try and do something nice for, and they just come back with a complaint. Well, you didn't do this right. You didn't do that right. And it can be frustrating. She says some people say thanks for everything, such as thanks, as we discussed in our last segment. Some people put it at the bottom of their signature. Well, that's a thanks for everything. But in the end of an email, regardless of the content of the message, however, expressing this superficial or even automatic type of apparent gratitude probably doesn't strike you as all that sincere. When people show true gratitude, they have to go farther than just saying a word. Rupin Academic Center's Pinhas Berger and colleagues, 2019, suggests that people who don't express gratitude are missing out on an important potential source of fulfillment. As they note, gratitude correlates with a positive feeling, pro-social behavior, and physical health, and can enhance well-being. The Israeli research team discusses between state and trait gratitude. In state gratitude, so this is state gratitude, you're thankful in the moment, but you're not necessarily a particularly grateful person in general. In trait gratitude, you're almost always gracious, and it's a trait gratitude. So state and trait. Berger notes that corresponding to the benefits of higher well-being and overall happiness, so turning this around, it's possible that your friend is usually quite happy to offer thanks for one of your simple acts of kindness, but for some reason, in this particular instance, doesn't in a particular instance. However, maybe this person is just a type of individual who never says thanks, but instead expects others to show kindness as part of their overall entitled approach to life. Well, this is interesting. Now we're looking at personality traits. You have some that are very generous with thank yous and others that aren't. A trait should theoretically not be changed, but the Israeli researcher believes that it might be possible to provide the stimulus for people to become more grateful with the right type of intervention. Previous research on gratitude intervention has produced mixed results, but Berger and his colleagues suggest that the researchers carrying out these interventions failed to distinguish between gratitude towards people, which is the interpersonal gratitude, and gratitude for simple pleasures or good things in life, non-impersonal gratitude. Perhaps they theorized a gratitude intervention could work to increase trait gratitude for the interpersonal type or people's existing relationships. If the intervention focused on thanks towards people, non-interpersonal gratitude instead could be best promoted in a non-interpersonal gratitude type of training. So they went through and did some studies with 150 participants where they, which consisted of primarily young adults, and they assigned to one of 5 interventions lasting for 3 weeks. So those in the interpersonal gratitude condition received daily reminders to list 3 things involved with other people for which they were grateful. In the non-interpersonal gratitude condition, participants noted 3 things not involving other people for which they were grateful. And in the third condition, participants wrote 3 letters each week expressing gratitude towards a person who deserved thanking. Doubling up on the gratitude intervention, people in the list and letter condition completed the requirements of listing and writing letters involving people to whom they felt grateful. Finally, in one controlled condition, people recorded 1 event per day in which they felt a positive emotion and 1 in which they were negative. They had some interesting results. They said these interventions were clearly of an intense nature. As a result, the researchers lost over 60 participants before the final study was completed, leading to a final number of 150. The non-completers reported fewer negative emotions than the completers. So the researchers controlled statistically for this difference in the remainder of the analysis, and at the onset of the completion of the study, all participants completed questionnaires expressing interpersonal gratitude, non-impersonal gratitude, general trait gratitude, life satisfaction, experience of depressive feelings, and positive and negative emotions. 3 months after the completion of the intervention, participants responded to the same questionnaires, therefore allowing the researchers to examine their immediate and long-term effects of the intervention. So I think it's important as we start to think about this, and as we start to think about, why are people not saying thank you? There's different types of people out there in the world that do, think about gratitude and thankfulness in different ways. And when we start to interact with them, we might want to think about them from that perspective. And that can give us some insight and perspective as to why they might not be thanking us on a regular basis. Or perhaps they're thanking us too frequently, which means that we just hear that over and over again, and we don't think they mean it. So from that perspective, as you think about personal development and working with our coworkers and our peers, people are different. And when we start to understand the nuances behind this particular gratitude or thankfulness, it gives us some better insight into how we can use those strategies and tactics to benefit our interpersonal relationships at work and at home. You're listening to My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about making your life better by expressing gratitude and saying thanks. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. The show's My Strategy. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio, and I am your host, John M. Hawkins. Today we're talking about being grateful. We're talking about gratitude, being thankful. Right before the break, we were talking about what do we do with those who never say thank you or express any sort of gratitude. And we learned some interesting things with regard to state and trait and how those folks do basically react to situations differently and express their emotions differently. In this segment, I want to talk about how we can make our life better by expressing gratitude and saying thank you. This is kind of a fun segment because I'm not really going through any research. Hopefully we've come to the same conclusion that not everybody does say thank you, but there's reasons why these persons don't say thank you. But we do know that there are benefits, psychological benefits, physical benefits to being grateful. And so I've got kind of a fun article here that talks about 34 ways that we can express grateful, or that we can be grateful, and we can express our thankfulness to others. It says many people fail to understand how gratitude can change a person's life and alter one's perception for good. A life without gratitude is often unhappy, unfulfilled life. Putting a little gratitude in your daily life is a first step to achieving many of your hopes, dreams, and your goals. The thing with gratitude is it actually helps you more than the other person you're showing gratitude towards. I think this is a key point. While we do expect thanks and appreciation from others, when we thank others, truly from the bottom of our hearts, when they do something, it actually helps us more. When you feel thankful, grateful, and content in your own lives and in your own experiences, you will find that you want less. You will find that you're actually more satisfied with where you are, what you already have in life. Showing gratitude is more than simple thanks without further thought. To improve the quality of your life and life of others, it's important to show gratitude for the things that you are so grateful for. So they're giving us 34 ways for us to ante up and let the people of our lives know just how much you appreciate them and how grateful you are for them. For one, give out compliments. Make someone's day by complimenting all the things on them or about them, like great shirt, nice smile, good job. Make eye contact. When interacting with people, make eye contact and show how really present you are in the conversation. Give a detailed explanation of appreciation. Let someone know exactly why you are grateful to have them in your life by citing examples of things they have done or said on your behalf. What about be thoughtful of others? Make a true connection with those around you and love in your life by giving hugs, greetings, saying goodbye, just saying thanks. What about just being there? Spend time with others, especially during difficult times. Just be there on the phone or however without any distractions. Be gracious when challenged. When someone challenges your actions or words, show grace by listening to what they say and be polite. You never really know what someone else might be going through. So don't take their actions personally and show them kindness, even when it can be hard to do. Offer congratulations. When someone you know is celebrating an achievement, offer your sincere congratulations, even if you are not the winner. Now, this is a hard one to do because many of us like to win. And when somebody else wins and takes the prize, how do you go about going up to that person who did win and congratulate them, showing that you're grateful for them and grateful for what they did? It's hard to do, very hard to do. Share their joys, celebrate others' joys as if they were your own. Be patient. Patience is not everyone's virtue, but give it your best effort to remain patient with those who love and remember that everyone has their struggles. Share their praise. When you're on the receiving end of a great service or fine hospitality, let others know about the job well done, such as telling supervisors about the excellent service your waiter provided. It's not just enough to thank that individual, but let others know. Select small, thoughtful gifts. When you're out and about, select a few small but thoughtful gifts for those you love just to show that you're thinking about them. What about handwritten notes of thank you? Skip the text, skip the phone calls, skip the FaceTime, the Instagram, the Snapchat. When a family and friends are having a rough time, handwrite letters of encouragement and inspiration or give them a call. Of course, you might have a hard time finding an envelope and a stamp and stationery, but that's a different issue. It says, write a love letter, express a love letter to those you love from your spouse, your parents, your children, to provide them with proof positive that they're loved and appreciated. What about journal your blessings? Take a few moments each night before you go to bed to write down the things you appreciated throughout the day. It can be a wonderful way to reflect on how far you've come throughout the years. I'm a big journaler. I love to write down my thoughts and ideas. I find if I don't write them down, I will forget them, which is the first reason I write it down. But also I do go back and review them. And in going back and reviewing them, it does give you additional context. It gives you the ability to, really start to think about what you are grateful for. My gap there is I probably do focus too much on the future state and not for what I'm grateful for. So maybe that's a way I could improve. Be a support system. When people are in need, step up to be the go-to person they can rely on for support, regardless of your differences. Share your talents. If you are a whiz at scrapbooking, money management, resume writing, share your talents with those in need. Perform random acts of kindness. Kindness is still very much appreciated in the world today. So perform a random act of kindness for those you love or a total stranger without looking for praise. Pay it forward. When you order a coffee, pay for the person behind you when you're at the drive-thru. Donate to charity. Volunteer your time. Host a gathering for your dearest friends. Help a stranger in need. Share your material possessions with others. Say you're sorry. Visit the sick. And finally, how about just give a nice smile? You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about putting your plan in place. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. The show is called My Strategy. Well, in case you've missed this broadcast, you can listen on iHeartRadio, Apple, iTunes. And in case you'd like to have something covered on the show, send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. Or you can give us a call at 1-844-MY-STRATEGY. That's 1-844-MY-STRATEGY. Keeping in mind that you do have a few more minutes left to get in your email this week. You don't have to, you can provide a tip or a trick on being thankful or gratitude, but if you just send an email, you'll be automatically entered into our weekly giveaway, where you can win a copy of my latest book, Coach to Greatness, and also a Visa gift card. All right, so this week we've been talking about gratitude and thankfulness. We're talking a little bit about the benefits of gratitude, and I think, from my perspective, we really need to understand what gratitude is. And gratitude, at the heart of it, is an emotion for expressing appreciation. True gratitude or thankfulness can help us feel better. We've learned that by some of the research on gratitude. Some of the ways that people express gratitude is different than others. Also, we come from different backgrounds, have different contexts, and that can impact our view of gratitude. We learned there's so many different benefits of saying thanks, but yet there's some people that have a very hard time saying thank you. They might exchange self-pity rather than being grateful. But there are lots of benefits to being grateful, and it's hard. But if you can find a way to push aside that self-pity and start to focus on the gratitude, you're going to find that it is really going to help you feel better about yourself. Now, why is it difficult for some? Well, there's a lot of reasons why it's difficult. Some people just don't think about gratitude in the way we do. Some people overuse the term. That's why we learned a little bit about those who say thank you constantly. Do you have to always say thank you? In fact, those who say thank you or do an act actually might only receive a thank you in about 1 in 20 of those occurrences. Does that mean that those we're doing good things for don't appreciate what we're doing? Does it mean that what we're doing doesn't make a difference? No, I don't think it does. I do think it means that sometimes when somebody does a simple gesture, they're not expecting a thank you back because it's something that they expect to do for you. So in that situation, we really want to think about how is it that they are perceiving what they are doing and what was the effort involved in it. We then talked a little bit about some experiments that prove the point, and in some cases it was very difficult for those in these studies to show their gratitude. Also, when they had to give gratitude to somebody who never expressed gratitude for them, it frustrated them to the point where 60 out of these 60 participants from this study decided to quit the study altogether. So I think it's important for us to really think about it in the context of what is our past experience with someone, whether it be at work or personal. And in some cases, thinking about being grateful or thankful for somebody who's never showed us that gratitude is extremely difficult to do. But what can we do to those who never express their gratitude? What can we do? There's some people who you're going to do something nice for, and they're just going to complain. They're going to say, well, you could have done this better. You could have done this a different way. Maybe you have a boss who does that. Perhaps they're entitled. Maybe there's some hope for them. I don't know, but I think it's important for us to understand their perspective, gain context, and in some cases, work with them to understand why they are reacting the way they are. I also learned that it's important for us to be grateful regardless of those around us. Life without gratitude is a very unhappy life. Helping people around us and thanking those around us helps us more than the people that we are saying thank you to. We also talked a little bit about some tips to help us be grateful. But it's important to think about these habits, consciously prioritize them, and make real differences in our lives. Well, thanks for being with us this week. You've been listening to My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We'll see you next time. Take care.